Commission, and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. DeSalt?
Here.
Ms. Schwartz?
Here.
Mr. Runge?
Present.
Mr. Downey? Chairman Zimmerman?
Here. First item on the agenda this morning is the approval of our minutes. Are there any additions or corrections necessary to the minutes today? If not, Chair would entertain a motion for approval.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The motion to approve is unanimous. Thank you. Public comment? All I see is staff. I don't see any public. So I think we're all set in that regard, unless somebody's hiding behind one of the chairs out there. Election of officers, because.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to do an amendment to the agenda this morning. We have 2 additional applications for tree.
And we're not doing this was the new one that was sent to you.
Oh, we're not doing that?
No, not until December.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Well, when I did a search, that's the most recent one that came up, so. All right.
Sorry about that.
Okay. So, we're back to still adding to the agenda 2 additional applications for dedicatory trees. Do I have a motion to approve that, please?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. So now we have 3 of them to approve when we get there. Okay. So let's put those with the others. And let's move on into old business, Centennial Tree Planting Project. On mine here, it has your name behind that.
Mine doesn't have my name on it.
See, well, there must be a newer version. That's what happens. Unless you're watching your email on a minute-by-minute basis, why they sneak up on you.
I don't have anything to add from what we talked last time.
Okay. I think someone sitting next to you may.
That's, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Director of Public Works and Engineering. We've talked about the project. We think it's a really good project. The main issue that we're faced with is how do we fund it? And we can look at, talking about it at budget time with council. Budgets have been.
I thought so.
Your mic's not on.
Nope, it was me. Probably. Sorry. I thought I hit it on. Didn't hit it. Okay.
Budgets have been quite tight the last few years, and we'd have to, see if we could make those appropriations to do it or find some, suitable fundraising sources that might help us with that. Those kind of things, along with the commission's fund that they have, could be a source of funds for the project. If it's that project at Roll Pond Point that we want to really think about and focus in on, we could come and develop a budget for the project to pick a tree that everybody's comfortable with, get some prices for those, see what it would cost to take those existing trees out. That's a cost that we would bear as the city, but the anticipation that we would do it all in 1 year now is not something that we have in our budget. We're taking them out as the trees, decline in health. We're taking them out so they won't be a detriment to other trees. So we're probably taking out 5 or 6 a year rather than going in and taking out 100 or 150 a year.
Could I just comment so
Sure.
I don't forget my comments?
Sure.
Number one, I think we all realized that money would be a factor.
Right.
And I think we thought of 2 things, Monty. First thing is, you only have a 100th anniversary of a city one time. I think that's a very important milestone in the history of a city, something that hopefully the city council would find the funds for and support. That was our thought. Secondly, there are some fairly substantial funds in the tree planting funds that are maintained as a result of fines. And our thought was that that would be something that, could certainly be allocated towards that because it's planting of trees, it's within the city, etc. Third, I think the point is that we all felt that here was a project that eventually is going to have to be done anyway. And with the focus on that portion of the city because of the activity, commercial development wise, and restructuring that's happening along Royal Palm Point, that was something that certainly has to be addressed. It can't be allowed to linger. So I think those are some of the things that we talked about.
Yeah, and
you weren't here for those discussions, and I just passed
I've read the minutes and talked to Nanette about it, and those are great points. We haven't, before the Centennial Project, talked about a major project for Royal Palm Point. Our intention was, as the trees declined in health and we took them out, is that we would look at trying to replace a few each year with an appropriate tree. We budget each year a certain amount in our grounds maintenance budget for landscape replacements. So we can absorb, those kind of small costs that you might replace 5 or 6 trees, take 5 or 6 out, replace 5 or 6 a year. We could absorb that in our budget without too much difficulty. But when you're talking about doing it all at once, a project that's going to make some impact, it's going to need some planning and budgeting to do that. And while I agree with you that 100-year anniversary comes once every 100 years and should be important, it has to be weighed in the scheme of all the other budgetary constraints we have, and we'll have to take that to council, show them how we may be able to do it with a combination of the funds from the fines and forfeitures and maybe some private fundraising and some appropriations from council as well. So it would be a multi-pronged approach if that's the project that we're going to choose and put our efforts into.
Any other comments from
Well,
commission members?
when you say you were going to, just as a minor point in terms of doing the budgeting and thinking about it, you were going to take out, let's say, 5 a year and replant. Well, how many more could you take out if you don't have to replant? What's the cost of taking them out? What's the cost of replanting? If the cost of replanting was moved over to the column for removal and we are using our monies to replant, doesn't that free up your replant money to take more out?
Well, the removal is more of a time and materials expense.
I understand.
And the folks that do that are not the grounds maintenance folks. They don't have the heavy equipment to do that with. It's our streets and drainage division. So for them to pull off of their task to do a major project, while we could do that, we have other projects that would not have their attention and their time to do the things that they normally do.
I'm not worrying about the project right now. I'm just worrying about the money. How much is it to remove 5? How much is it to replace 5? And could the money used for replacing 5 be used to remove more? Maybe not be 5, but remove more so that there are more trees removed and we're paying to plant where you're not.
Again, there's not a dollar outlay associated to us in our budget to remove those trees. We're not paying a contractor to do it.
Right.
Labor
But you're-
hours.
It's an opportunity
and-
cost.
But you're still paying for trees. There's money in there that you would be paying for trees to replant, is there not?
For trees to replant, yes, and they're about $400 a tree, depending on the kind of tree we would pick.
Okay. So 5 is $2,000.
5 trees planted would be about $2,000.
Okay, that's all I was looking for was a number.
Chris, did you have a comment?
I did. This morning over coffee, I sat down and put together this little 2-minute sketch of what the vision might be. And The first thing I would like to comment on after reading the minutes is I do not feel that the Royal Palm Point project will carry the impact to Marcus Centennial. That's maintenance work. That's operating expenses as opposed to a new capital project. I don't think that you would be able to make a substantial visual impact without substantially changing the original design quality of the Royal Point project. We reviewed several possibilities besides Royal Palm Point. One was a standalone operation. One was the project on Cardinal Drive. The Cardinal project was deemed inappropriate because it's only 5 feet wide, which leaves a freestanding monument tree, which you have, as I said, a 2-minute sketch in front of you. And the first question I'd like to pose to the city staff is, how many acres of improved park or open space does the city have that we maintain? 300 times 43,560 square feet is a lot of land. A project of this scale might take 500 to 1,000 square feet of that property. If you figure the tree is 20-foot canopy, there's 500 square feet of canopy for a tree. You might figure that you could build a monument, plant some small specimen trees at each end of the monument, add some shrubs and a patio. I've also heard that there's no locations for such a project out of how many acres?
Can I interject?
Sure.
When we were talking about I couldn't find an area to do it, we were talking about an alley over a road.
Right.
And this is completely different. If
Well,
you're
this
talking
was-
about a single tree, we could find a place for that.
Right. This was one of the options discussed at the meeting I last attended.
I may not have been there.
Right, but it was in the minutes. There are 2 parks, which I know of right now, that have open space. One would be the park that leads into Cache Cay, and also the park at the base of the riverside that adjoins the Barber Bridge, where everybody parks to walk. Those would be 2 opportunities to do a monument tree.
We don't disagree that there's not a place, an appropriate location to do a singular or grouping of trees in an area with some kind of hardscape around it.
Right, and so what I'm returning to is there were 3 opportunities. My opinion, for what it's worth, is the Royal Palm is not a viable option. That's maintenance work. That's operating funds that are required to replace a tree that's diseased. That's not creating a statement, which is what a 100-year anniversary of a city deserves. It deserves a bronze plaque. It deserves the names of the founders. It deserves a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Like our chairman said, it only happens once. Maybe in another 100 years, you could celebrate 200 years of the city's anniversary.
Not our problem.
Not my problem.
And again, my bad. I missed that particular idea. When we have talked about this from the beginning, it was always considered a streetscape.
Sure.
And I drove around a lot trying to find a place for that. And that's why I came up with Royal Palm Point. This is a completely different type of
Well,
thing.
it's one of the 3 options.
And that wasn't one of the 3 options initially. So that's all I'm saying. So, this opens up a little bit of a different area. But also remember parks like Van Bush that have big open spaces. Open spaces are there for the kids to use as a play area. So we just
Sure.
have to, make sure that we're not upsetting the use of the
Do you
open
have
spaces.
a document that designs the land use of the parks?
Say that again?
A document which sets out the use of the parks percentage basis? Usually that's part of a city's criteria.
I don't think so.
Land use plan?
You mean like what the parks are used for?
Yeah.
I don't know of anything like that.
I don't think there's a written document that describes how much of the land is to be left for open space or use.
Right.
It's kind of been our observation of how the parks are used as to where we try to keep some open space for that kind of use.
Right.
If this idea is one that the board endorses, we think has a lot of merit that you can have a singular location. That's what we discussed this at our staff meeting yesterday, and are happy to pursue that. If that's what the board wants to pursue, we can come up with a couple your recommendations for locations and maybe look at a couple more and
There's tons
present
of
those to you or the board if you want to tell us where you might think they are.
I think the overriding feature, as I listened to the discussion, seems to be staff support of a project going to city council for funding, and without funding, no project is going to come to fruition.
Right.
And that kind of disappoints me, because I really expected a more positive approach from staff, because the city manager, when we discussed this and he was here, was very supportive. So I'm kind of disappointed in this redirection. Nobody likes to spend money, but as we said earlier, Monty, and I understand the problems here, and they are political, and I understand that, and I have support for your concerns about that. But maybe it means we don't replace police cars for a couple of years, and we put extra mileage on them. I mean, there's got to be some creative thinking involved here to try and be able to celebrate the 100-year anniversary. And I'm kind of disappointed in a lack of support for that.
Well, let's go back and revisit what I remember, because I was here from the beginning. I thought we were going to try to involve the community, and there would be fundraising. Chris,
Sure.
wasn't there discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, so the money issue was based on that we were going to have fundraising. It wasn't just going to be the city making allocations. The other thing I remember is when we first started, we were looking at the streetscapes.
Originally, yes.
Yeah, and so we did that. Then we focused in on Royal Palm Point and said, okay, Royal Palm Point, and we're eliminating. I don't recall putting a hardscape with a monument tree in one location, but that to me will be the easiest to carry off. That's going to be the simplest thing. Coming back, Chris, asking about what our park allocations of playground. Our parks are really designed specifically for the neighborhoods being served. For example, the one you were talking about going into Cascade,
Right.
I mean, it's designed, if you try to put in a lot of playground equipment there, those people would come unglued.
There's no kids.
Yeah, well, and there are some kids, but they don't want an active park per se. And then you go to McCamish Park, and they do want a park. They don't want dogs, because they made that very clear. And so, but they sort of use that as their neighborhood park. And all of them sort of have their own separate identity.
Right.
So the key is to say, if this is the way we want to focus it, and we're going to get community involvement. I mean, we're not talking a whole lot of money here.
No.
And Carl, coming back, I don't think you want to put planting of a tree even at the 100th anniversary versus police cars, because that will never fly in the community. But I think it is one of those that it is allocation of resources. And the key is instead of building, for example, a playground somewhere else, allocating it to that project is well within the scope of doing things. I mean, we're constantly rebuilding playgrounds. And so
Jim,
it's just taking
that was an example of some creative kind of thinking. And the whole point is that, and I hate to harp on this, but it's a 100-year anniversary. And if you're going to do something, it ought to be something meaningful, as Chris said.
And I agree with you. I have
from
no
a personal point of view, doing something like that in the Cascade neighborhood, to me, is out of sight, out of mind.
Right. It was just an
Well, that wasn't staff's idea.
No, I understand
Right.
that. I'm just reacting to today's discussion.
Yeah, but
from
you
a
all have
personal
to make that determination. And I think what Monty said early on in here is once we focus down what it is we want to do, and I like the idea of the hardscape and doing the tree, we can find that budget. And let's say that it costs $25,000.
For what?
And so the issue of us going after $25,000 is not a major insurmountable project. Take on the project over on the island. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. So then it becomes a little bit more of an issue. But if we can sort of narrow down what it is we want to do, come to a conclusion, I think Nanette and Monty both can come back with a park that we want to make this, something that's a focal point and can come back with a budget. And if we're still going to pursue the 100th anniversary being a big deal in Vero Beach, we want to get the community involved. If the city goes out, plants a tree, you all come to the tree plantings that we do, and you all and myself and Nanette show up. But if you get somebody that actually invests money into it, a lot of times you get dog park being an example. I mean, those people turn out 300 people, or just to walk dogs, but that's going to take a real concerted effort to do that. But again, if you focus on the point, and Carl, we are enthusiastic about the 100 years. It's the key is what is our focal point and what we're going to do.
Well,
because
that's what we're trying to determine.
Yeah.
We have a project that we finalized on that we're ready to take to City Council.
Right.
We're still in the discussion stages.
And that's exactly right.
And I think Chris's point when he proposed this initially was that's the whole idea behind doing it in 2015 when the 100th anniversary is in 2017.
Yeah.
You've got 2 years to be working on coming up with a viable plan and garnering support. But to me, that kind of support has to have City Council support. And so the sooner we get a plan that we feel comfortable with that gets taken to City Council to get an endorsement and then starts getting some publicity directed towards it, the better chance. Fundraising is, an interesting concept. And we've all been involved in different fundraising activities. And it's not as easy as a lot of people think. So much of it is emotion. And that's why it seems like it's easier, and I'll get shot for this, it's easier to raise money fundraising for animals, pets, than it is for homeless children or abused children, unfortunately. When we look at, that's the point.
Hummelson Park, the playground equipment, you raise it for kids.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
it was a
obviously
bunch of mothers who were concerned about the play area that they felt was unsafe for their children to use and did something about it.
And the irony of those projects, if you get that enthusiastic mother or the enthusiastic dog owner or someone who's enthusiastic about our 100th anniversary outside of the mayor of the city, because the mayor is going out and saying, we'd like you to contribute to planting of this tree, why pay taxes? That's the standard response. And so, but at the same time, if you want people to recognize it, then the fundraising has to come from somebody who's going to be enthusiastic about doing that. If we want to just plant a tree and have a dedication, again, coming back to the latest concept, that can be done internally. And it will be a tree, it'll be in a park. I'm just not sure you're going to get the community recognition.
Jim, I would, and I don't have the exact amount because it's been a while since we've had a report and I don't remember those figures. But I think we've got
40-ish grand.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
easy.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's enough money.
Carl, you got enough money to do this latest concept.
Exactly.
That's my whole point. So the idea of fundraising, if that's the direction we go,
I think the money's
scope
there.
Project, the money's there.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I say. The enthusiasm of the city council, I think, is going to be directly related to how much the city has to pay.
Yeah.
I will tell you, every budget season is, and that's.
I have a question. You've got a centennial celebration in 2 years. Is there no centennial committee formed?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge. You all, as far as I know.
That's absolutely normal in any city.
You would think there'd be a.
I can't
A vault.
imagine that there wouldn't be.
The thought really started here. It started with Chris, and maybe that's a shortcoming on our part. Maybe we should have initially, without a project, just gone to City Council and say,
true.
don't know if anybody's thought about this,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
one of our members did, and in 2 years, it's a 100-year anniversary, and is the City Council interested in creating a committee of interested citizens who will help work with the Tree Commission to put together? I'm just blue sky.
And I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah, that's true.
I think because you're the only commission that I'm aware of in the city that's even talking about the anniversary.
Chris?
Well, where the whole idea started was I sit in this chair each month and look at that wall of the past mayors. and they need to be recognized as well as the city for their effort in creating what we have. And I mean, you sit there and you look at all those men that serve this city, and 100 years will go by, and something needs to be said for that.
Men and women.
Right.
Men and women, yeah.
Be careful.
Oh, yeah.
My glasses are a little dirty this
be
morning.
very careful.
Be very-
yeah. Look who you're sitting next to.
Residents.
Yeah, but it really is one of those things. If you're going to have a successful project, it's got to be community grown.
How do we get a
Invest in-
centennial committee?
The Tree Commission recommend to the City Council that a Centennial Committee be formed. Now, prepare yourself, because a lot of times those who are asking are going to be the Centennial Committee, but which is not a bad idea, because you guys, you're citizens, you represent a very diverse population, and it's not a bad idea.
I'm
to
a
do
very
that.
good advocate.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's going to take. But that maybe is the initial, and thought about it that way, but that'd be the initial request to the council, and to make it known in a council meeting that we're going to have a Centennial Committee. Because again, right now, you all are the only ones that I'm aware of. The Planning Commission's not talking about it. The Recreation Commission's not talking about it.
But that's probably just because they haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't think that we're the only ones who would express interest once the idea was presented. I think there would be support for.
Yeah.
I think there'd be support on the part of members of the city council also.
And Carl, I agree with you. I mean, the unfortunate situation is
Then
we
let's
don't
propose it.
think 2 or 3 years out. We think pretty short term. So it's, but yeah, I think proposing that and maybe writing a letter to the mayor making that recommendation is not a bad concept. But I would keep in mind trying to form a project, and while you all discuss that, if this is the type of concept that you want to pursue, because we can do the design and do the budget for you and come back and show you what it is once we can focus in on what it is we want to do.
Again, Jim, just sitting here and thinking while people are talking and brainstorming, it might be more politically astute to not go with a project, but to just talk about the concept, because that opens it up to potential thoughts from other parts of the community. They may have a better idea. I mean, who knows?
And the money to support it.
Well, the money's there. There's 40
Well,
grand.
but we might want to make it even bigger.
Yeah, well, okay.
There's an old saying, in a multitude of counsel, there's great wisdom.
Well, I guess the first step forward is going to be a request from the chairman of the Tree Commission that we form a Centennial Committee.
Well, I think I don't necessarily feel that the Centennial Committee responsibility should be the Tree Commission. So I'd be more inclined to support a notion to point out to the City Council that in our discussions, we've come up with the awareness that it is the 200-year anniversary, or excuse me, the 100-year anniversary in 2017, and that we wanted to bring that to the attention of the City Council with the idea of their potential interest in forming a Centennial Committee. Because if it ends up being fundraising, then we need some people who have a chance to touch the deeper pockets in the community to raise those funds. And the easier way to do that is if they are on the committee and do the soliciting, as opposed to trying to line people up to do fundraising who aren't part of the committee responsibility and see the end result as a part of their necessary actions.
Which really boils down to the scope of the project that's going to be designed.
It does.
I mean, that's the whole.
But the concept has to be introduced to the City Council, I
Yeah.
guess. And that's kind of where we are, because you guys are getting squirmy because of the dollars, and I can understand that, don't get me wrong. Our responsibility is not necessarily raising dollars. We're an advisory commission. That's all we are. We have no authority and no responsibility and no money. And we don't get voted on. So we can make all kinds of crazy suggestions. All they can do is not renew our term. And, you know, based on where the pay is going, you know, these guys don't even remember, and I'm not sure you were here, Jim. There used to be a reward for being and serving on a city board or commission. And that was a special night when the city sponsored a dinner for all those people. That was your, in lieu of getting a W-2, that's what you got. So
yeah, that was before my time.
Yeah, and you know, I was thinking about that. That was a great time because all the commissions got together for a banquet, and each of the chairmen got to introduce the members of their commission. So it was kind of recognition. Anyway,
Carl, I will tell you, there was also the city helped sponsor parties in different departments of the city where employees were at Christmas, given, you know, acknowledgement of the work they were done. But there was so much criticism. I mean, I remember the criticism when I got here that if you volunteer for United Way during your work hours, you needed to take vacation because you really were not volunteering. But those were policies set down that became very harsh. And again, I was at the, you predated when the commissions, my job was to stop the Christmas parties in the various departments. So we don't have any of that anymore. And the only thing an employee gets after 35 years is a little letter. It used to be that they got a plaque and all that good stuff. But I mean, that's the realities of the way that we operate. So all that being said, you know, whether you want to say that recommend to the city council or however you want to do it would be fine with us. We'll take the message to the council on the centennial.
We'll see what the consensus is, and then we can go for there. And I can tell Monty is bursting at the seams to say something. Monty?
Yeah. I think if you'll check the minutes, that staff initially was supportive of a singular type location for some kind of something that we would present. I think the idea we talked about was public art, but it was in one location where you could have a focal point.
And I think that was the primary theme of what we started with, too.
And I'm glad to see us coming back to that, because we can take a singular location that takes a smaller footprint and find numerous places around the city. As you say, looking across the room, looking right there at Veterans Island.
There's tons of locations.
There's a fabulous location there. There's going to be fabulous locations in numerous parks that we can find. We can bring those back to you if we can focus our attention and our energy and our enthusiasm on a project that we can see that we can make happen. You'll get that. But you know, a project that we can fund for less than $50,000 as opposed to one that's going to cost $500,000 to $1 million when you're looking at the Cardinal Drive. It's, you know, we've gone through this before. We know what kind of projects we can make happen and what kind of projects that we can't. I've had some successes in ones we can. Sexton Plaza, Humiston Park, I could name dozens. And I can tell you ones that are folded up under my desk that are just pipe dreams. Yeah. So I like that if we can focus in on an area where we can make a real statement, and then if we have a committee that can come up with some ideas of a celebration where we have, I don't know, the food truck vendors and you know, some people, you know, reading us, telling us about our history and those kind of things. I think that's where you have a real successful 100-year project. I mean, the town I grew up in, we had the 100th year was the year actually, the 200th year was the year I graduated high school. So they do had a parade the whole 9 yards. It was good.
I think the discussion certainly has a lot of merit. I do want to just double check maybe possibly why a lot of the other groups haven't been talking about this. And looking over Jim's left shoulder, on the wall there, it says the 90th anniversary was 2009. Is it 1917 or 1919?
I have
19.
I have 19 written down in all
Is it
my stuff.
2019?
It's 2019.
I
We got
misspoke
4
there.
years.
Rather than 2 years.
It's
so that's-
2019.
Oh, yeah, so
We've got quite a bit of time.
we got
with it.
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it goes by fast, though.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Oh,
You
it's
didn't
certainly,
correct me.
it's certainly you want to
I
talk about
would
it now
never.
to
Yeah.
plan
Well,
it.
I think then you better look at your website. Because in the website, I believe it says 2017. I mean, that it's 1917, because I actually raised that issue a couple of meetings ago.
I guess you did, yeah.
Because when I went onto the website, I could swear that it says,
I'll be right back.
7s and 9s are pretty close.
Yeah, they look a
right,
lot.
yeah, but
The answer is I don't know the answer to that question.
Do,
I think
do
I
we-
wasn't here at that time,
Do
so I
we
don't
have
remember.
any history with respect to the 90th anniversary?
Well, I'm sure we do. City clerk's got all the records.
I
Those would be
would
trouble.
I would love to see that, to see what they did
Or the 50s.
to celebrate the 90th anniversary,
Yeah, I'm-
because that might give us.
Not much.
I'm not even sure who led that effort.
It was involved.
I
It was
don't
quite-
remember
Tammy
it
did a
as
lot
a
of work on
singular
that.
issue.
Tammy was involved with it
Yeah.
quite a bit. So if you want to speak with her, she might have folders and
Tammy?
information. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or again, too, on that note, the 50th or the 75th. I wonder if they would do that.
2000.
Well, there's
Just trying to
not a
think
lot of
if I
those
was-
people still
Yeah, I
around.
was
Yeah,
here.
well, I mean,
I've been
in-
here since 2000.
There might be.
On and off. So,
The 90th just didn't catch your eye. Huh?
yeah, I guess nobody told me about it. You know, I
Where was that
just find it. It's such
At
an
the,
incredible
Yeah.
event.
Downtown.
Heritage, it was downtown,
the Heritage
right?
Center area
Yeah, they had a
and-
little celebration downtown by the Heritage Center.
I'm sure there's some of that.
We can always ask Alma Lee. She'll
Yeah.
remember.
That's what I
That's
was
very,
thinking.
very true. And probably had her finger in the pie. too.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I think Monty went to check the
I
website
think
to see.
so.
See about the date.
So we
But
got-
all that being said, if we still want to pursue, I guess is where we are at this stage.
Yeah, and I
Whether it's
think
2
Paul's-
years or 4 years.
Right.
But it's helpful to know that, so we know what our time
Right.
frame is.
It's 19?
On the website. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is 19.
He's the one that does our website, so he,
So he knows. So,
Okay.
either that or he just
So
changed
it
it.
is 4 years.
yeah.
So we have plenty of time.
Well, and the other thing is,
I guess that's one of the reasons people haven't been talking about it.
You know, that could very
Well,
well
yeah,
be.
you know,
It's
when
early.
you have council members who have 2-year terms, and the majority of them who are on the council right now only have 1 more year left on their term, it's kind of hard to get people thinking in 4-year time chunks.
Yeah.
Anyway, we know it's 19.
June 10th, 1919. It was incorporated. Then Vero, as the city was called then, was abolished in May 19th of 1925 and reincorporated as
Right,
Vero
I
Beach.
remember that.
So
left,
June 10th, 1919.
it left St. Lucie and became
Yeah.
Indian River.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Because I live in Plat 1, lot number 5, which was done in 1925.
There you go.
Yeah, we were an outgrowth of our neighbors to the south.
Yeah, so we could have movies, right?
Exactly.
Right. On Sunday.
Yes. And Buck's grandfather was the one who went to the legislature and made that impassioned plea to carve out Indian River County from that monster St. Lucie.
That didn't want us to watch movies on Sunday.
That's right.
On Sunday.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It
Because
is
of the
right.
Florida
Yep.
Theater.
Wow.
So there's what we
See,
should.
see all these strange things you learn by.
Yeah, I was born and raised in New York City, Stuyvesant, the Indians buying Manhattan so long ago.
You were there when they bought.
I was. I negotiated the deal. Are you kidding?
You're the.
I'm not sure who you represented,
Attorney?
the Indians?
Oh, definitely. Believe me, I represented the Indians.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Maybe we could do this on Sunday and have a
Movie.
have a movie to show.
That is just amazing. I got to start studying the history more.
Okay. Well, we've had a lot of discussion. Are there any motions coming out of our discussion as it relates to the first item on our old business agenda, which is the Centennial Tree Planting Project? Or is again, knowing that we have 4 years gives us a little more of a time cushion than I guess and maybe I knew it was for 6 months ago, but maybe I forgot. But anyway,
29.
I would move with the chair's permission that our discussion be tabled for the present.
okay, that's fine. There's a motion to table. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a second. The item is tabled for further discussion. Thank you. Tree protection ordinance and fines for improper pruning. I don't think there's anything new there, but I don't know that to be a fact. Jim, do you know if planning's done anything on that, or?
I have not heard anything. I think they've not gotten to it yet.
Okay.
I talked to Gail yesterday, and she didn't
Okay.
give me any update.
The reason it's been carried forward so we don't forget it. So,
It's still. I'm sure it's still on their plate. It just hasn't.
yeah, because we know it's an ongoing situation. And every time I drive around and I see a tree gone, I know that there's been another instance where probably there was no permit issued. And unless somebody saw it during the time it was taken down, and I understand it's tough to keep up with that kind. But the big problem is there's a lack of knowledge on the part of the citizens of what the rules are. And probably the biggest thing about any revision of that ordinance is to try and come up with a way of doing a better dissemination of just what the rules are and what people are expected to do. And that's not always easy to do, even with all the media that we have, or mediums of communication. So anyway, all right. So we won't worry. Are there any other items of old business that are not agendized that need to be addressed? Okay, hearing none, let's move into new business. And the first item is the expanded list of tree dedication applications. And we now have 3. And let's see. The one that's originally agendized is Angela Astrup. And that's for an oak in Troy Moody Park. And it's a memorial tree for Sam Tripson.
I don't have that.
That's the one with the agenda.
That was originally sent out.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, taking them in whatever order. Monica Christak, is that the name? Anyway,
Chest.
Chestak? Chestak?
Yeah.
Chestack? Yeah, I'm.
Justak,
I couldn't read
okay.
either.
And that's for a tree in McWilliamport to honor Dan Richardson. Is there a motion to
I
approve?
motion to approve.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes, thank you. Thank you, Dan. And the last is Ann Ferrer.
It's actually free. I'm sorry.
Ferree?
Yeah.
Oh.
The Garden Club.
Okay. Riverside, north along the fence, in memory of Joan Masters, dedicated by the Bougainvillea Circle of the Garden Club Association.
A motion to approve?
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing.
This one doesn't contain a cost of the tree? Is that a floor or
I never
fall?
put the
No.
cost of the tree in there.
Okay, well, it is on this one.
That's the oh, yeah, because I did get that one up front.
Okay,
I don't usually
Oh,
fill
because
that
you
in.
don't know.
I don't usually fill that in.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It was filled in on the first one.
She asked, she wanted to know up front, yeah.
Okay.
Usually I do that afterwards.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Next item on our agenda under new business is the enclosed draft of the annual report for the Vero Beach Tree and Beautification Commission.
Yeah, I'd reprinted them out and sent them in front of you, only because there was a few minor adjustments, random things that were found. So.
Okay, now, my only concern was one I expressed to the city clerk, which unfortunately has not been addressed, and that is the bald spot on the guy whose picture is included in that tree planting, so.
Wow.
Very bad.
You better turn your head the next time.
Yeah, wear a hat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I don't know if you haven't had a chance to read the revised one.
No.
And we just did a little bit of cleaning up and explanation in some areas and added some qualifiers, but other than that, it's pretty much essentially what you received in the mail. Are there any additions or corrections to this?
I didn't see any.
The only thing I thought about, since I had a chance to review this, and I just want to mention it, is this really doesn't direct a lot of attention to our stated responsibility to review plantings and programs that the downtown group accomplishes within the city of Vero Beach downtown. And I wonder if it wouldn't be a good idea to add something like that. I just raised that point, and I'm sorry to do this at the last minute, but I didn't think about it until this morning for some reason.
Well, I thought about it when I first read it, and I actually went back and looked at minutes because I was pretty sure in the beginning of the year that we had worked with those folks with respect to the containers, with respect to the baskets. So I think
Plant material.
right, that should be in our report that we did that, and it seems to me that it should also be in our continuing goals for 2016.
I have a tendency to agree with that. I would also mention, and maybe I'm remiss in that I don't think we've had a recent update from them
We have not.
as to what is happening. They've kind of gone on their way, and I have to say I have not been downtown looking around to see what has transpired or hasn't transpired. Nadine, do you have any kind of an update?
What did you call me?
I'm changing your name.
It's a new year and a new name.
Yeah. New council year.
Yeah.
Everything looks
Nanette,
real-
I'm sorry.
It's
I
okay.
apologize.
It's okay.
I didn't do it on purpose. I think.
Everything's looking really, really good down there. We've done some planting around to revitalize the existing landscaping that we had in some of our bulb outs. They'd put pots down 13th by the post office in that area, and they look really good. They did some citrus in the pots. It's really kind of cool. Mm-hmm. All of the planter hanging baskets have been replanted. and they still look okay. I haven't actually talked with Robin lately, but they're keeping on top of them and replacing them as they need to. And they might not actually know that they need to come back every once in a while and give you updates. So there might be a need for, meshing there. But they've been very conscientious in keeping everything looking good. And if we see anything that's getting out of date, I just let her know, and she contacts whoever is has adopted them, and they take care of it. So it's been really, I think, successful.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, one of our early concerns, as you'll all remember, was the selection of the plant material. And that was really more to help ensure success than it was that,
Right.
we were trying to dictate or anything of the sort. So I think that still should be a concern because it is a sanctioned project by the city that's accomplished on a review basis through us. So I just point that out. If somebody has a suggestion of what might be added to the report to address that, why, that would be nice.
Well, I'll be happy to write something and send it over to Rita for your review.
Well, it really should be approved by all of us. Be helpful.
I
if
know,
we
I
could do
understand,
that.
but
I
I don't.
That's the only thing.
Well, I can put it, whatever you guys want to send me, I can put it into the report, and you can review it next month as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
I didn't know what your
Yeah.
time
And if
frame
there's
was
still,
on the report.
if there were still changes to be made, I can
That's
make
great.
them, and then.
Okay.
I didn't know if you were pushing to get this thing done and complete or not.
Usually they say in December, but if you have even a few adjustments at the
Well,
December
we could
meeting, I can
always,
still
you
make
could
them.
always do it by email
Yeah, I
and
can
have
see now
people
this is the
kind
final.
of, that's
Yeah.
the easiest way. And
Yeah.
it's not going to be something really long. Okay. Can we
War and
agree on
Peace.
that then? Everybody's happy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
And Coral,
Yes, ma'am.
just got an email.
Glad you remembered my name.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry?
I just got an email a couple days ago from Robin Polinsky, and they are working with, or she is working with the OBA, and they're going to do 6 planters in the bulb outs along Ocean. So they're kind
Oceanside Business Association. You got to be careful
of
using.
Oceanside Business Association.
Yeah, OBA. See, that might be Office of Ballistic Accomplishment or
Well,
something.
wouldn't that be interesting if they put planters out there?
Yeah, that's a twist.
Little tanks.
They've already authorized the money for it.
Have they?
Right.
Well, they do a pretty good job.
And they're going
I
to do
mean,
maintenance and.
They came up with $40,000 for your bus system.
So anyway, that's going to be somewhat of a similar project in the
Well, that's
beach
nice.
business district.
That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Is that getting started this season, or do you know?
I think I'm meeting with her on Monday or Tuesday to walk it. So usually right after I meet with her, things happen. So I think it'll come.
Then let me
good.
play devil's advocate with you and say
Why change?
no. If we're supposed to have oversight in downtown, are we supposed to have oversight on the beach? That's still the city, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. That is
Just a point. I mean, everybody decides no, that's fine, but just so we raise it.
That's why I brought it up to you.
You're so good. Well, personally,
Do you want me to ask
it would
Robin
be
to come?
discriminatory against the downtown group if we did some oversight there and
Right.
didn't do the oversight
we should-
from the beautification
Sure.
aspect.
If you want me to, when I meet with her, just tell her that it would be a good idea to get on the agenda and come and talk about that.
What are your
I think
thoughts?
that's a fantastic idea.
Now,
I think we need
you're
to
not
do
meeting
some-
again until next month. I don't know if they want to do it before you meet, so I don't know if
But
maybe we could just do it
to address it at least.
through the email or whatever. But
We need to have some input as far as the plant material that's used, I believe, just as downtown. It needs to have
Yeah,
the same
in
rules.
fact, there, it's even more troublesome because of salt drift on the beach.
clearly that's a whole different plant palette,
That's my whole point.
and I don't even know what they're putting in. I mean,
Well.
we haven't had that first meeting, so I don't know.
Even though it's their money.
I would assume that she's coming up with the plant list.
Now, maybe they're going to say, well, since it's all our money and the city isn't doing anything, you're not doing anything. correct?
I'm just putting the irrigation drip things, then that would be
You're
it.
doing something.
Then it's,
Using public
it's
funds.
city
Then it's a
funds
public,
and,
yeah, it's a
and,
public project.
and
And it's in our
taxpayer
right of way. It's in our bulb out.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
definitely
Yeah.
then, yeah.
dollars.
If they wanted to move faster than your next scheduled meeting, would there be a possibility for a special call to do that? Just as an idea?
I would think so.
Sure.
Why don't,
So I'll find out from
let
her.
Nanette find out, and
Yes.
she can communicate with Rita through you guys if there needs to be
Yes.
a special.
Okay. Let me find my agenda. Any other items under new business? Hearing none. We don't have a treasurer's report, or do we have a treasurer's? No, no treasurer's report. Chairman's matters. I really have nothing to focus on. Members' matters? Anyone? None? Next meeting is December 17th. We'll put that in our agenda, and if there's a need for a special call meeting, why, I'm sure Rita will contact us. Is there anything else to come before us today? If there's not, Chair would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. Thank you for all being here.